Okay, I'd like to call the City Council special meeting for December 5th, 2023 to order. And the time is 5:32 p.m. Can I have roll call, please? I'll open at 5:32. Roll call.
Councilmember White,
Here.
Councilmember Voigt,
Here.
Councilmember Laura,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Finn,
Here.
Mayor Martinez.
Here. Leaves us to item B, the public comment period. Do we have public comments for the special meeting?
I have no written requests. Rudy, do we have any callers on the line?
I have no callers on the line.
Okay, seeing none, that brings us to item C, the announcement and recognition portion. Item C1, the recognition of current mayor Julio Martinez. Yeah, we probably should. Let's do the pledge. Excuse me. Stand for the pledge, please. Hand over your heart, please. Ready, begin. Very good. Thank you for that reminder. All right, so item C1 is the recognition of current mayor. And we have Ms. Gibbs.
Do we have? Okay. You're not going to do this one?
Well, they're going to recognize me. Here he. Oh.
So Mayor Martinez, on behalf of the city staff, we want to extend our gratitude to you for your very involved leadership, your insight, your dedication to this community. And we thank you for this last year. I know it's not your first year as mayor. You're seasoned at this now. We'd like to present you with a gavel in commemoration of your year as mayor. And just thank you.
Appreciate that. Thank you, Ms. Gibbs. A little. Thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you so much. Yeah, so before we move on into the reorganization, I do just have a few quick little things to say. So I just want to say formally that 2023 has been a prosperous and active year for the city. I'm proud to be a part of so many of our accomplishments we have done. Our roads continue to be rehabilitated, and our playgrounds and our parks are upgraded, and many projects that improve our quality of life, such as our redesign of Stewart Park, remain our top priority. Fire station is almost completed. The city has purchased a new fire apparatus. K9 Mondo has been added to the force, and our PD has been outfitted with replacement vehicles, new electric motorcycles, patrol, and updated radios. So I want to encourage the public to view the 2023 State of the City. It's on YouTube, and I think it's posted to our website as well, if you want any further highlights of the accomplishments we've had over the years. So I want to give some last acknowledgements. I want to thank the council for your support, for following our ordinance and succession, and having the confidence to elect me second time around. So no, it wasn't my first rodeo, but nevertheless, there's always challenges and interesting things that pop up. So thank you for that. I appreciate that. To Mayor Pro Tem, thank you for covering and being there when I was absent on several occasions. I appreciate that. City Manager Gibbs, thank you for all you've done, your communication and hard work, and I appreciate working very closely with you to better the city. So I really appreciate and thank you for that. To the residents, I receive so many positive comments when I meet you out on many of our functions and many of our events, and I want to thank you for that. It really gives you that accomplishment feeling. It's just like a teacher. When you hear the students say thank you and we appreciate what you do, it kind of, takes the place of everything else that goes on. But when the residents tell you thank you, things are doing well, it makes you feel really good that you're really making progress, and I appreciate that truly. And of course, lastly, to my family. The time commitment as mayor is often conflicting with family time, but they've been avid supporters throughout my tenure, and I just couldn't have done it without them. So I want to appreciate that for all of my family. So I enjoyed serving as the city mayor. I look forward to continuing on the council. And with that, before I get too emotional, we'll go to item D1. So that is our reorganization of our city council. So I bring it to the city clerk, assistant city clerk, Ms. Wheelwright. Would you like to go over the selection process and what our ordinance says?
Sure. Good evening, Mayor and Council. As you know, there is an adopted ordinance that sets the selection of Mayor and Mayor Pro Tem that was voted on by you. So before you is, and attached to the agenda is the order, and presented for you for a motion is to ratify the adopted sequential order.
Okay, and with that, I would like to make a motion to ratify Mayor Pro Tem David Finn as our new mayor and Councilmember Mike Lara as Mayor Pro Tem.
I'll second.
Roll call.
Are we ready?
Yes.
Councilmember White,
Yes.
Councilmember Boyd,
Yes.
Councilmember Laura,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Finn,
Yes.
Mayor Martinez.
Yes, and with that, we will be changing over the guard, so I appreciate it again. Congratulations, sir, I think. Oh, I appreciate that. All right, so do we have a seat assignment?
Yes, actually, I'd like to just interject for a minute. We do want to do a kind of a redo ceremonial swearing in for
Oh.
Mr. Fenn.
Okay.
His was done via Zoom. So he kind of got gypped. So I'd like to invite him down so we
Yes,
can do
let's
an
do
official
that.
swearing in.
I remember your belt quite well on that ceremony, yes. That was.
I got a cheat sheet too.
Yeah. All right. I'm gonna set you up for failure. Okay. All right. raise your right hand. I, and state your name,
I, David Lee Finn,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
and that I will bear true faith and allegiance
and that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California.
and the Constitution of the State of California.
I take this obligation freely,
I take this obligation freely,
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
and I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter.
and I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I'm about to enter.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And would you like us, Nicole?
So we can adjourn and I can do all that in
You
the
want to do
background.
that? All right. Well, you can adjourn, I guess, from there. You want to switch? We can switch.
I got it from here.
All right.
So we will adjourn tonight's special meeting at 5:43 PM. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah. Hit the gavel. There we go. That's good.
Okay, welcome, everybody. Welcome to the City Council meeting, the regular session for December 5th, 2023. We will call the meeting to order at 6:00 PM. And then we'll have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Martinez,
Here.
Councilmember White,
Here.
Councilmember Voigt,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Laura,
Here.
Mayor Finn.
Here. And then no excused absences tonight, correct? Okay, and we will begin tonight's meeting with an invocation by the Police Department Chaplain Rob Peterson.
All right.
Thank you. Let's bow for prayer. Our Heavenly Father, we give you all praise and glory this evening, and we thank you for this city which you have given to us to not only live in, but for those who are here to take a part in its governance and its functioning. Lord, we thank you for each person who's here in attendance from our community. We ask your blessing upon them. We thank you for our council this evening. We ask that you would give them great wisdom in the things that they discuss and decide tonight. We thank you also for the passing of the gavel, as so to speak. Lord, we ask your blessing upon that transfer of leadership. We pray that you would bless our mayor and each of the council members as well. And we pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you, and then we will have our Pledge of Allegiance by Chief Talese.
Please join me in pledging allegiance to our nation's flag. Ready, begin.
Thank you, gentlemen. Do we have any adjustments to the agenda? Okay, seeing none. Any conflicts of interest disclosures? Okay, and we don't have any announcements or recognitions tonight, correct? Okay. And then public comments. This meeting will be open to the public and conducted in a virtual format to be inclusive of all participation preferences. Public comment participation is encouraged by emailing any comments to the city clerk's office or by calling in using the phone number provided on the front of the agenda. Do we have any public comments?
I have no written comments for this portion of the meeting. Rudy, do we have any callers on the line?
I have no callers on the line.
Okay, thank you. And then on to the consent calendar. Are there any items to be pulled for discussion? Okay, seeing none, can I get a motion?
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve consent items D1 through D6.
I'll second.
Okay, can we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Martinez,
Yes.
Councilmember White,
Yes.
Councilmember Voigt,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Laura,
Yes.
Mayor Finn.
Yes. That moves on to the Youth Council report. Do we have a report this evening for the Youth Council?
Not today, Mayor.
Okay, all right, thank you. And then on to item F, public hearings. So item F1 is public hearing to award of fiscal year 2024-25 Community Development Block Grants, CDBG funds, and a staff report by Christina Taylor.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everyone. Before you this evening is the annual review of applications and award of CDBG funding for the upcoming fiscal year. This award will be for fiscal year 24-25. Each year, the city receives CDBG funding through the County of Riverside's program. The amount estimated this year for all programs is $181,533. And we usually get right around the ballpark of the estimate, subject to small differences. The city can award a maximum of 15% of our anticipated award to nonprofit groups. In the previous years, the city has utilized the 15% to fund those requests and reserved the remaining funds for citywide or neighborhood improvement projects. This year, as in previous years, The minimum CDBG award for an individual program is $10,000 in order for the county to act as the administrator. So CDBG project funding is divided into two sections. We have public nonprofit, and the second is public improvement projects. This year, we received 3 requests from nonprofit organizations. The first request was from the Boys and Girls Club of San Gorgonio Pass, a request in the amount of $35,000. And this proposal requests funding for the Club Camp Kids program. And these camps are run summer camp, Thanksgiving camp, winter camp, and spring camp programs provided at Brookside Elementary and Sundance Elementary, specifically for students or children in the Beaumont Unified School District. The second is from Faith in Action of San Gorgonio Pass. The request is in the amount of $51,098.30. And this proposal requests funding for addressing homelessness issues in the San Gorgonio Pass. The specific services to be provided are assistance with a variety of, or it's help with a variety of assistance needs such as Section 8 voucher applications, benefit programs, job application, life skills training, and there are a bunch of other items also included in the application, which this particular agency provides. The services would be provided to Beaumont residents, but through the existing Banning Navigation Center. And then the third request from a nonprofit that we received is from Voices for Children in the amount of $10,000. And this proposal requests funding to expand the Court-Appointed Special Advocate Program, also known as the CASA program, which currently serves Riverside County. This CASA group currently operates out of offices in Riverside, Temecula, and Palm Desert. And the requested funds would serve approximately 5 children here in the city of Beaumont. And then for your city program, staff has prepared 1 eligible project application for the upcoming funding year. And the application will be for pedestrian safety project. This is a continuance of an ongoing project which includes installing sidewalk, curb, and gutter in areas of the city where none currently exist. Staff has reviewed these applications for completeness and compliance with CDBG requirements. Each of the proposed applications meets the requirements established both by the city and by the County of Riverside's program. The notice of funding availability was published in the newspaper and on the city's website, as is required by the CDBG programs. Staff's recommendation at this time is to hold a public hearing and approve and authorize staff to submit a CDBG application for the City of Beaumont Pedestrian Safety Project and give the authority to the city manager to reduce or increase the amount funded to the projects based on the final amount of funding available, and to approve and authorize staff to submit a CDBG application for the Boys and Girls Club of the San Gorgonio Pass program. Their request in the amount of $25,000, subject to the conditions of the CDBG program as provided by Riverside County EDA. Staff is happy to answer any questions, and I believe we have a representative from Boys and Girls Club in the audience. And there we go, one of our other
Voices for Children
applicants.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Taylor. So we will open the public hearing at 6:08 PM, and do we have any public comments?
Yes, sir. First speaker is Sharon Morris.
Hello, City Council and City Managers. Thank you so very much. Really, we're just honoured to have been able to apply. This is our first time applying in the City of Beaumont. And while we know that we've not been recommended for funding, we are extraordinarily honoured just to be here and to tell you more about what we do and so on. As you know, we are the Court-Appointed Special Advocate Programme. We have those 3 offices around the county because they're close to the courthouses, the 3 courthouses that serve the children in foster care that we serve. I just want to let you know that since we became the CASA programme 8 years ago, we have served 41 children who were removed from their homes in Beaumont. Currently, we are serving 14 of them, and we have 7 on our wait list. It costs us $2,000 a year to support one of these very special community members who become a volunteer CASA for 18 months to serve a child. So the 14 that we're currently serving is at a cost of 28,000 that we have to raise, and the 7 on the wait list is at a cost of 14,000. I do want to tell you quickly about one child who was removed from his home here in Beaumont. His name is Julian, and a referral was made to the child abuse hotline number. He had been found with huge bruises and welts on his back and his tummy. He was falling asleep in class and told his teachers that his mother and her boyfriend were keeping him up till 1 a.m. reading. If he did not complete his school assignments, she wouldn't feed him, and she made him sleep deprived. He often slept outside with paper as his pillow and able to cover himself with those. He had bug bites on his face and legs and neck, and he was often made to stand still in one spot for a couple of hours at a time. And then he came into foster care, and we immediately assigned him a court-appointed special advocate, his own person who would come and see him once a month, take him out, and then tell the judge what he needed to thrive rather than just exist in foster care. As we know, social workers are unfortunately overworked, overwhelmed, and have too many cases. They don't have the time to get to know these children holistically. Julian was 16, but he was adopted. Which is not an ordinary tale, as you can imagine. But he had his casa for 2 years, and she helped his foster parents, who became his adoptive parents. She contacted the teachers, she kept in touch with his social worker, with his attorney, and just really made sure everyone was talking to one another so that Julian could have the best success at a life. And as we know, all foster children grow up to be neighbours, work colleagues, and members of society. So thank you for listening, and thank you for all that you do. I know it's a difficult task. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sharon. Any other public comments?
Next speaker is Megan Grisham.
Thank you for what you do. I love that. Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Megan Grisham, and I'm the interim CEO for the Boys and Girls Club. I've worked for the club for a little over 15 years now, and by far, the Camp Kids is my favorite program. Out of school time can be so tough for our families. Parents at work, full houses, boredom, or maybe home isn't the ideal place. Our Camp Kids program helps save the day, literally in some cases. The Boys and Girls Club has always sought out to help those who need us most. For years, our problem was that of spatial and financial limitation. I'm happy to announce, however, that our improved collaboration and contract with Beaumont USD means that we are able to bring more children who are experiencing hardships into our program. Youth need us more than ever. Our programs have changed in a big way. Kids are struggling. They need guidance and conversations, building healthy relationships, behavior management, goals, room to be creative. More importantly, they need champions for their success, and they need more of those people. CDBG funds will allow us to maintain rigorous, fulfilling programs during out-of-school time led by adults who care. Our programs allow children to be children. Last summer, members explored space with the mobile planetarium, learned about ecosystems, and met some very cool reptiles and sea animals, were wooed by a magnificent magician, and enjoyed some team bonding with obstacle courses. Most importantly, our kids learned about being good people in a safe and caring space. One member in particular cannot wait for summer. Joining the Camp Kids crew during COVID, a speech delay kept him from conversing, but not making friends. Through the club's guidance, members learned how to communicate and include others. For his family struggling with some issues at home, seeing their son light up when he got to club took a load off of their shoulders. This holiday camp, we know we'll see him again. He is now able to communicate with friends and has become a BGC celebrity with staff and members that come together for camp. We cannot wait to welcome our kids to another couple weeks of winter magic, chock full of present-making, cocoa, stories, and even a snow hill. Again, thank you for your previous support in giving Beaumont youth a safe and fun place to go.
Thank you, Megan.
Rudy, do we have any callers on the line?
I have no callers on the line.
No other speakers.
Okay, thank you. So we will close the public meeting at 6:14 PM. And council discussion. Go ahead, Mr. White.
So we can award a maximum of 15% of the 181,000 estimate, which comes out a little bit higher than the 25,000. I think it comes out to 27,000. We could choose to give, we could make a motion to approve 15, or the 25,000 to Boys and Girls Club, and then anything remaining in the 15% after an estimate, I mean, after it's no longer an estimate, we could award that to another applicant, correct?
So the minimum award needs to be $10,000. So you've got about 27,000 to work with,
Okay.
with 10,000 being the minimum award. The county will not administer the program if the award is less than that. Staff
Okay.
doesn't have the capacity
So
to,
when we vote to award, we're voting to award to the Boys and Girls Club, if we follow your recommendation, the 15% of regardless of whether it's 25,300 or 27,200. Okay, thank you.
Ms. White, go ahead.
Is there an option for it to be divided amongst two, or is it one choice?
sure, you can divide it however you like as long as the minimum award is 10,000. So essentially it gives you
So
two, really,
So we could look at doing 10 and 15%.
10 and 15, 10 and 17, something like that. Mhm. And if I'm not mistaken, I know Boys and Girls Club gets other funding from the county, and Casa, you're applying as well, correct? Right, so we wouldn't have any issue with reporting if we did divide it up that way as 10 and 17 or 12 and 15, or however you wanted to divide it up. As long as the minimum was 10, you could do that.
Mr. Martinez.
Yeah, just to clarify, and that's 10 per applicant. Okay, all right, thank you. That's all right now.
Well, I kind of like the idea of splitting it. And I think that might be where we're heading with that. And so we could potentially say, 10,000 to Voices for Children, and then the remaining balance, because we won't know the exact dollar amount, to the Boys and Girls Club. Okay. We have a general consensus on that, or a motion? Mr. Martinez?
I do have some comments on that, though.
Okay.
So I just want to remind council that we have to, and I think we should at least, take a look at what the impact is to the community. So if a Boys and Girls Club is, 30, 40 families that they're, Beaumont families that they're helping, as opposed to maybe 5 Beaumont residents for one, then we might see that it's not quite equitable. So just keep that in mind as we start thinking about, so it is 2 different applicants, but we're also looking at how it's impacting our community. So just keep that in mind. That's just food for thought. I would probably tend not to split it in 2 simply because of that factor, just for equitable reasons. But that's my comment.
Ms. White, go ahead.
Do we know the cost for, am I allowed to ask the applicant a question?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do we know the cost per student for those? A generalized breakdown?
Yeah, it's about, oh, I'm sorry.
Microphone.
No, the phone.
So we can record your answer. Thank you.
It's about 1,500 per student. And that's not including some of the supplies that we use as well.
Okay, great. Thank you for that.
Do we have any other comments from council? Mr. White, go ahead.
Yeah, so that's about 11 times 1,500 is what we're what is being recommended to give to the Boys and Girls Club, correct? 11 times 1,500. I think it's a fair trade to split it up between 10,000 for Voices of Children and the remainder to the Boys and Girls Club.
Okay, I'll jump in for a question. Sharon, when you were sharing the numbers, you said that you've served 41 children so far, but there's 21 children from Beaumont currently being helped?
So.
Did I understand that correctly?
So we became the program in 2015, and in that time have served 41 children from the city of Beaumont.
Okay.
And currently are serving 14 and have 7 on the wait list who are waiting to be paired to a CASA.
Okay, all right, thank you. So
You're very welcome.
I appreciate the comments that were made previously, but I think we may be serving a higher number of children than we expected initially with helping out the Voices for Children. So I would support 10,000 for them and the remaining balance towards the Boys and Girls Club, but
I'll go
we'll
ahead
go
and
to
make
your-
a motion.
Okay, go ahead.
I do have one more question though before. So the staff report says 5 for Beaumont. So is that then not correct? Is it
That's what was
updated?
identified in the application, is if we provide them $10,000 at a cost of $2,000 per kid, that allows them to serve 5 kids in the city of Beaumont.
Oh, I see. So that's not how much they have. They have more,
They have more, but based on what they're
the
requesting.
requesting amount.
Right.
Okay. That's kind of where I was going with my comment. So I misunderstood that.
Understood, and appreciate the clarification on the question. So if no other comments, we'll entertain your motion.
Sure. I'd like to move to approve and authorize staff to submit a CBDG application for the City of Beaumont's pedestrian safety project and give authority to the city manager to reduce or increase the amount funded to the projects based on the final amount of funding available to the City of Beaumont. And I would like to approve and authorize staff to submit a CBDG application in the amount of $10,000 for Voices for Children, and the remaining I guess, percentage to go to the San Gorgonio, or to the Boys and Girls Club of San Gorgonio, subject to the conditions of the CBDG program as provided by Riverside County EDA.
I'll second.
Thank you. Can we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Martinez?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Voigt?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Laura?
Yes.
Mayor Finn?
Yes. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you so much.
So with that, we'll move on to action items. Item G1 is funding agreement for the property located at 516 California Avenue, and our staff report will be by Elizabeth Gibbs.
Thank you, Mayor. The item that you have before you is a funding agreement that was actually on the last agenda. Staff has worked closely with the County of Riverside to work out the terms of the agreement. And just to clarify the terms, the funding agreement requires the city and its partners, being MSJC, Workforce Development, and some other entities, EDD, to operate the facility for a minimum of 5 years. The term of the agreement may be extended for an additional 5 years if mutually agreed upon by the city and the county. And that means that we would come together with the county, talk to the partners that are operating the facility, and ensure that they're still on board for the second 5 years. If the city and the county do not mutually agree, or the partners cannot partner with us anymore, then we would meet and confer with the county to discuss amending and extending the agreement. And that includes continued use of the facility for economic and workforce development or anything that serves a public purpose. If the term does not extend for the second 5 years, meaning the city and the county cannot mutually agree, then the building would be sold, and each entity, the city and the county, would receive their proportional share of the funds, the proceeds from the sale of the building. However, at the end, if we do the second 5 years, at the end of the 10 years, the city is free and clear and no obligation under this agreement. The agreement then expires, and the city can operate either a resource center or anything that the city deems appropriate at that time. And so the funding agreement is presented to you tonight for approval, and if approved, it will go before the Board of Supervisors next Tuesday on the 12th for their approval. And with that, I recommend that you approve the funding agreement with the Riverside County, Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any public comments?
I have no written requests. Rudy, do we have any callers on the line?
I have no callers on the line.
Okay, thank you. And any comments from the council? Mr. Martinez.
Yeah, I just want to say, I think it's a great example of the county and the city working together to really promote the economic opportunity here in the Pass area. It's really one of those Pass area type of ideas. And I think it's a great opportunity, and I'm proud to have it based here. So I think it's a great opportunity. And I just want to mention that and thank the supervisor as well for supporting it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. White.
Yeah, can you explain one more time what happens at the end of 5 years?
At the end of 5 years, we come together with the county and we sit down with the partners to ensure that the partners can continue their programs using the building for the next five years. And so what the county wanted was 10 years of programming through MSJC Workforce Development. And we broke it up into 2 5-year increments. Think of it as a refresh after 5 years, just to make sure that everybody's still on board.
So at the end of 5 years, why would it go to a fair share of the partners?
If the partners, it wouldn't go to a fair share of the partners. If the partners, MSJC and EDD and Workforce Development, for whatever reason, say, we can't run these programs anymore, we don't have the staff, we don't have the budget, and they walk away, the city is left with being obligated to run a resource center, which means staffing, costs associated with that, all of the things that MSJC would be doing. So at the 5-year mark, we want to ensure that the partners are still on board. And if they're not, then we would sit down with the county and talk about, well, what else can we do that's mutually beneficial for the public? We could come up with another economic public purpose. If we can agree through that meet and confer process, then we would be obligated to sell the building and the proportional share would go back to each entity.
And each entity being the city and the county?
The county, correct.
And how would we decide what the share is?
We would itemize all of our costs, utilities, maintenance, expenses, any escrow fees that we're going to pay, any expenses as part of the sale or buying the building, and then the county's proportional share would be the 1.7 million.
And so who's paying all those utilities and expenses up until that point?
The city would.
Okay.
The
And
city would have the title to the building. And
We'd
so
have the title to the building, we'd be paying for all the costs.
Correct.
And then if at 5 years we can't agree with the county on it, then we're gonna be made whole on our expenses, or our expenses are gonna be compared to their 1.7? And then that's gonna determine what shares we get as far as the sale of the building?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Laura, before we go to you, so I got a question off of Mr. White's. So then if we're looking at a depreciated market at the time, then it would still be a percentage based off of that, correct?
Whatever the sale at that point in time,
And then they would factor in future closing costs on that sale?
correct.
Okay, all right. Okay, Mr. Laura.
So I just want to make sure also, the city doesn't have to increase their coverage to meet the requirements of attachment D,
No.
the insurance coverage?
No, we have the coverage.
We're already covered, okay,
Yeah.
thank you, that's all I have, Mayor.
Okay, and then last, or extra question that I have then is, if one of the partners drops out, if we found another entity that wanted to jump in, they could potentially replace that, and that could fulfill that need of something new related still to a community benefit and so forth. You know, it could be some other organization that we may not even think of today, correct?
As long as it's in line with the resource center and it's small business related and education, makerspace, things like that.
Okay, very good, okay. So I get it for comments, do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion. I'll make the motion to approve the funding agreement with Riverside County.
I'll second.
Can we have a vote, please?
Councilmember Martinez?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Voigt?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Laura?
Yes.
Mayor Finn?
Yes. Got to retrain the brain on that one, huh? All right, item G2, discussion and direction on the fiscal year 2024-2025 strategic plan, and staff report by Elizabeth Gibbs.
Thank you, Mayor. In January of this year, City Council came together on a Saturday and spent 6 hours putting together the 2023 strategic plan in anticipation of staff building the budget for the 23-24 fiscal year. And so I've put together what I call a mind map for attachment B to show you what it is that was actually adopted. The actual strategic plan document is also in there, but I find that the mind map is a little bit more visually appealing. I am recommending, there were 5 key pillars that came out of that workshop that we have been operating under: communications, relationships, infrastructure projects and traffic, economic development and downtown, finances, resources, and then the last one is quality of life and well-being. I am recommending that you continue with those 5 key pillars. I think those are very important. And I sat down and thought about any other areas that maybe to change the key pillars, and I really can't come up with anything. Those really cover and encompass everything that council has spent the last year, calendar year, working on. So moving forward to the goals, there are some goals that have been completed this year under the adopted strategic plan, and those include obtaining a lobbyist for federal and state, creating a new position to serve as the city's grants coordinator, developing Pennsylvania widening, adding a signal at Beaumont and 6th, and then revisiting the park fees. I'm also recommending that some of the goals be removed from the high priority and drop down to still on your list of goals, but not under high priority. And those 4 include strengthen relationships with other community leaders. The reason I'm recommending that those be removed from high priority is because we have done, collectively as a group, council and staff, we have done an excellent job strengthening our relationships with other community leaders. We are all attending various functions. We have budgeted for other states of cities, other chamber events, things like that. And so it is still a goal, but I'm recommending that it not necessarily be a high priority because we are all doing it now. Develop Danny Thomas Ranch. This was actually mentioned by Councilmember White at a previous meeting. I'm recommending that it still be a goal, but not necessarily a high priority. Develop Pennsylvania ramps. If you recall the last CIP amendment, we learned that Caltrans will not let us develop those ramps until the grade separation is done, and that is several years down the road. So I'm recommending we remove those from the high priority list and still keep it as a goal. And then finally, develop staff peer-to-peer relationships, internal and external. This is another area where we have developed a process where executives individually meet with their peers, both internally and externally with other cities. And it has become the norm in the organization, and we have built those relationships. So it's still a goal, not necessarily a high priority. The reason I'm recommending that those 4 be removed from the high priority is to make room for other high priorities, really. And then we move on to the goals that I believe need to be moved to the high priority. These were on your goal list. You had 50 goals, 30 of which were high priority. And so these next ones listed were in that second set of 20, if you will. And those are develop a system of proactive communication related to traffic and other topics. In other words, an app and possible staffing increase. Develop Highland Springs Interchange. Develop Oak Valley Interchange. Add a signal at First and Highway 79. Add a signal at First in Pennsylvania. Update the city's downtown revitalization plan and complete Nicholas Park improvements. 3 of these are underway right now, but moving them to high priority, they may be completed in this current fiscal year. Moving them to high priority sends the message to the public that this is a commitment from council to get these projects done. So I want to make sure I'm very clear in that, yes, they're underway or they're already programmed. However, it is important to move them to high priority to ensure that they do get completed. And then finally, the other goals to remain on your goals list, but not high priority. These are staying where they're at right now, which is that second set of 20, not your 30 high priority. Develop California Street Grade SEP, achieve a rail transit stop, strengthen existing business relationships, promote events as part of the economic development for the city, reevaluate the TOT, revisit the city's debt policy in consideration of potential changes towards an intergenerational policy, consider needs for internal staffing increases, explore creating an IFD, explore creating a road and bridge benefit district, develop a plan for litter cleanup throughout the city, and plan for the addition of more sports fields and open space through land acquisition. So again, those are still goals. They're just not in the top high priority. And so if you look at, again, if you look at the attachments, attachment A is your adopted strategic plan. Attachment B is your, what I call your visual aid for the current adopted strategic plan. Attachment C is the draft strategic plan that I am proposing tonight. And then attachment D is that strategic plan visual aid. So with that, council, I'm open to any changes that council would like to make. I would like to have an adopted, in concept tonight, I would like to have an adopted strategic plan for the next fiscal year. And then what I would like to do is bring back the formal strategic plan at another meeting just for formal adoption. So tonight would be adoption in concept.
All right, thank you. Do you have any public comments?
I have no written requests. Rudy, do we have any callers on the line?
I have no callers on the line.
Okay, thank you. Council discussion. Let's go Ms. White first.
I just really want to thank staff for putting this together. I love the, what you called a mind map. It was nice, quick, and kind of, I need to put it, I know I'm not going to be able to read it, but I wish it was on like a business card size so I could keep it with my business cards for talking points. But I think it's excellent and right in line with what we are working towards. And I think what council has really tried to continue to push forward. I appreciate the mention of Nicholas Park and getting that done. And as always, I hear a lot about safety at First and 79, as well as the nightmare that First and Pennsylvania is. So thank you for adding those as well. And then a system to kind of relay that traffic information is something that I've discussed in the past as well. And so I think that those are definite priorities. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez.
Yeah, Ms. Gibbs, a couple of questions on the priority levels. So they're high priority, we give them 1, 2, 3. So a little bit about that numbering system. In other words, it's the one where we're actively doing something, and 2 is we may not be actively doing something, but we have it ready, or is it strictly there for budgetary that's what I'm kind of looking for, because when I look through the plan, I can see some of the projects, that changed. They went from, 1 to 3 or 3 down or so forth. But I just want a little bit more on the levels, because I'm a little rusty since the last time we had our workshop.
So there are 3 levels. They're all priority goals. There's top level, second level, third level. The way I categorize them when I discuss it with staff for budgeting purposes is the top priority levels have to have the majority of our focus as staff. Some of these top level priorities, however, are long-term projects, but they take a lot of focus. And then you have your second priority level who, they're still priority, but if we had to determine what to work on today, we would go with our top priorities. The second priority is still a priority that needs to be addressed, but it takes a back seat to the top priority, and then so on down the line. The third priority is still a priority, but again, the first 2 levels have the majority of our focus. Does that,
Yeah, that, and the reason I asked is because I would suggest, and maybe council can discuss, we have Stewart Park at a 3, which in my opinion should be at a 1, because we're, want to get that done. So I would suggest to council that we consider moving Stewart Park. Now, you have Stewart Park and Sports Complex together, so I don't know if it's better to separate so you can prioritize one number, one the other. But I do want to consider Stewart Park being moved from 3 to 1 as a top priority. And I'm okay with the recycled water at 2. At first, I thought maybe we should be moving that towards a 1. But I think 2 makes sense since we're still going through a lot of discussion with that. But Stewart Park was my main concern, so I put that out there for.
and so the initial goal from council's workshop in January combined those two. In the recommended, it is a priority level 2.
For Stewart Park?
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's why I asked earlier, it's like if we're actually doing the project now, I think it probably should be 1, because we're gonna be talking about funding for that in the workshop, in our meeting, and I think that's something that council's talked about really trying to push forward. So that's my suggestion for that. Like I said, we can deviate from Sports Park and keep that at a 2. I think that makes more sense, but that's my suggestion.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Laura.
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks for putting this together for us and bringing this back. I agree moving Stewart Park up, that is a high priority. I like what you've done with everything else. I do have one additional suggestion with, obviously, the council's agreement. Where we have our economic development, I don't know if this would be economic development or communication relationships, but we've got 2 commercial properties located freeway close, I would say. And I'm just wondering if maybe it's worth looking into, and it doesn't have to be a high priority maybe, but just on there, a billboard electronic billboard that could create some revenue to help fund some of our economic growth. Obviously get the word out about what we're trying to do here in town. But again, that would only be if we had consensus from council. Those are my comments. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. White.
Yeah, I have some thoughts here. First of all, I think developed Danny Thomas Ranch should be taken off the list completely. I don't believe that we've seen the kind of support that we hoped we would receive from the Parks District. And I think to even keep that on the list at this point until, we've done everything we could to reach out to them and try and work with them and make suggestions. And we just kept running into, it wasn't moving along. And at this point, I would think that we should take that off the list completely. I do agree with Mr. Laura that one of our priorities should be things that generate income, revenue. And so I'm looking at the reevaluate the transient occupancy tax, the TOT. I've been talking about this for a number of years now. I've been told by hotel owners that we have one of the lowest TOTs around. And some of the projects that we have been considering are going to possibly bring in more hotels. And at that point, I think we should get our transient, our TOT up as up to a market rate. And so I don't know, reevaluating that, I don't know how much staff resources that would take. I also agree I also believe the same on 2 other items in the not high priority, and that's the creating an enhanced infrastructure financing district and explore creating a road and bridge benefit district. The number one concern that we all know this, I can ask you all, what's the number one concern of our citizens, and that is our traffic and transportation. And I think both of those 2 items, if we look at those items, again, we're at a point where I may not understand fully what these districts do, but before we continue to grow in some of the areas where we're going to generate revenue from a financing district or a bridge and benefit district, I think we should be in front of that. So bringing that all up, and we're not really, I don't think the plan tonight was to really prioritize this, but let me ask you, why wouldn't we just do what we did last year and do it again?
The dot exercise?
Yes.
Because the majority of the adopted strategic plan currently has not been addressed.
But our priorities may have changed from a year ago. I mean, I just brought up 3 items that I would like to move to the top, and they were not mentioned by, anyone else here. And so, what kind of direction do we give you? I'd like these moved up. Mr. Martinez had some that he wanted to suggest. We haven't heard from the mayor yet. I don't see the downside. And I think when we do the strategic, if we did that exercise again, I think we could do it in a way where we take into account which projects you're already working on, how far along you are. Those are items that we could take into consideration when we're up there deciding which projects to put up. And that's just a suggestion that I have. So that's all I had for this. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I'll jump in real quick. So I've got a question then on, well, one of the things I'd like to move up in terms of priority is, if I have us in the right spot here, for our communications with moving to, goals to move to high priority, it's to develop a system of proactive communication related to traffic. I think if the public knew what was going on, they could feel a little bit better about it. I want to say adapt better and so forth, but I think communication is the key, because some of these projects are going to take time, but if they realize where we're at, or if we're short on funding, or if we've secured the funding and we're waiting on XYZ or whatever. So I think that, and so for example, we have as a level 1 priority, continue the prop-ups and the community visits and education. That still kind of goes along with that. So if it's developing the app and if it's something we have control over, and in my opinion, kind of low-hanging fruit, and it's something we can do as staff and put that together, let's knock it out and get it out there. And so I would recommend that we move that to a level 1 item where it's recommended as a level 2. And then I have a question, I couldn't find it on here, is other goals to remain on the list but not a high priority, and this one I think should move to a high priority, is develop a plan for litter cleanup throughout the city. I think that will help people better understand maybe where we're at with homeless, and blight, related to that. I also feel that if you've got a nice clean city and so forth, that helps with property values, which then in turn has an indirect value, a boost towards property values and property taxes and so forth, and desirability to come to Beaumont. So I think that could move up. Not necessarily a level 1 priority, but on higher up somewhere. And so those are 2 things that stood out to me, but I do like the comments that Mr. White has made, that maybe it's a condensed version of our planning effort. Because I think if we have a good presentation as to where we're at with each one, then it would be, I think we could, as a council, could quickly go through it to say, yes, that remains, okay, move item 3 up to, and so on. So I think it would be a condensed workshop and maybe not an all-day thing like we did last time. Although it was very productive, but no one wants to be around all day either. But I would be in support of getting back together as an update to it. And then from that, it gives us more information then to communicate to the public of where we're at, what's been done, and what's next.
Okay.
And then, so with that, we'll go on to Mr. Martinez.
Yeah, I just want to mention, I think an update's probably not a bad idea, but I do caution getting together again and putting staff in circles, because staff's already going in a direction and they're already working on stuff, and if we come back and say, oh no, that's no longer priority again, then what are we, back to the drawing board again, and we're gonna give them new goals and have them go in a new direction, and then they're all over the place. So I don't know if that's the best, because it probably takes 2 years to get some of this at least down. Some of them were completed in a year, but some of them we know are longer than that. So I just want to caution making sure we don't come back and put more more work on the staff by saying, you know, oh, let's change this, and all of a sudden we think we're going in this direction, and then we have a new vision, and then, you know, I don't know where that'll go. I think it takes a little bit more time, maybe on the third year, we'd be able to maybe readdress that. But I do like the idea of coming back and saying, okay, where are we, a little bit more maybe in detail, so that we can make sure. I like the minor tweaks. I think little suggestions like we talked about on Danny Thomas and stuff, we can kind of do that without having the whole thing encompassed again. But just be careful when we say new workshop or another one, because I don't want staff to be burdened with having to go back to a drawing board or anything like that. Especially since it really hasn't had time for some of this to materialize. So, I mean, a refresher wouldn't be bad, but, you know, it's up to staff to see how you want to present it to us. But I understand what
Yeah.
you're saying. The public would like to know, where are we? And you said, okay, we're here, but, you know, do we change, especially with budget coming up, we want to make sure that we're prioritizing everything. I just don't want to go in and start reprioritizing everything and then, you know, get into, and I know staff knows what I'm talking about. I'm trying to save you. You know, so that's all. That's all I'm saying. I mean, yes, of course, we're council, and we have a right to change, of course, so that's our, you know, prerogative. But from their point of view, I want to make sure that we have time for it to materialize something before we start changing things too much.
Understood.
That's
And-
my comment.
And if I can comment to your comment, that anytime that we see this at council, it etches in our brains a little bit better, and it's better understood, and the timelines, you know, are better understood as well. So, yeah, I don't want to start all over, that's for certain. But if we decide to do that, I would like to see a good, strong status as to where we're at. This is what we can do with this item. This is where we're frozen, and so forth. So we can then help our focus at the same time, and not have you chasing down a road that's just too much of an obstacle at the same time. So with that, we'll go to Ms. White.
Yeah, there's a lot of comments going on, and I would caution as well to us recreating it. I do think maybe one of, something that we did last year, we just had too many priorities. So, you know, maybe if you kept us to one green, one red, one yellow, you know, and we try not to duplicate if we can, then that may give more direction as well. Trying to work on 30 priorities is overwhelming, I'm sure. And so that would just be one of the, I think it's easier to look at 15 at times than it is to try and look at that. So I agree that I would like to see more, where are we at? And if we understand that, you know, green is, hey, this is little staff time, or red is little staff time, you know, if you guys could kind of put it into those measures, and then maybe we would understand that priority. I mean, to me, when you tell me you want a high priority, that means I want it done yesterday. You know, not tomorrow, but yesterday. And so I think that would,
No pressure.
yeah, right. So maybe that would help guide us as well.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I do like the refresher idea, and I agree, we don't want to reinvent the wheel. I think, though, that if we sit down for a refresher, kind of like what you're saying, is we have ground rules. Okay, these projects we're too far into, or they're off the table. These projects are, you know, we just lay down the ground rules, and we know, okay, these projects we can't touch, these projects we need to leave because they're still getting traction. But you can add, you know, these, and which are going to need to, maybe we need to remove some too. Because, you know, you can't, it's hard to keep that many plates spinning, so, and I understand that. But a refresher where we can lay down ground rules, maybe eliminate some of the projects, add some, or move some up in priority would be a good idea. I think a good exercise. Short, maybe a 2-hour one.
That's up to council.
All right, Mr. White.
Yeah, a couple of comments. First of all, I think this council works very well together. I think we also respect our staff's resources and the work that you do. I think we could go in as Mr. Lara just brought up. I think it doesn't need to be everyone from every department like last time. Just let us refocus. And I think we could agree not to add any new priorities, or we could take the billboard approach and say, if you want to bring in a new priority, we got to drop 2. something to sort of, I think we could help you by drilling down into less priorities. I think we're all in agreement with that, and then it gives us a chance to discuss why, my priorities are my priorities, and help us convince each other, and at the same time take into account where you are on these projects, where you think you could be, which projects that we may have put up here as a high priority that you're gonna, back of your mind, you're like, well, yeah, we're not gonna get that one done. So again, I think that would help for the five of us to sit down, mainly with you and maybe some department heads, but it doesn't need to be everybody, in my opinion.
It would have to be a public meeting, and so they would be here indirectly anyway.
Okay, okay. But it doesn't have to be an all day.
No.
We don't need to wear our football jerseys. I'll try not to
How about
break my
baseball?
shoulder this time.
All right, so, well, I know we've given staff direction in terms of some individual priorities in there, and some individual adjustments. Does staff feel comfortable enough that we move forward with the
So I would ask that
workshop?
you set the meeting, the date and
Okay.
time right now.
All
So
right.
that, because we're on our budget timeline is the next item, and it's starting.
So does it need to be in the, sorry.
Go ahead, go
Does it
ahead.
need to be in the month of December or January?
I would prefer that simply because we need to start building the budget.
Okay,
But Mayor, what if we just say we're not going to change the budget planning for this year? This is moving forward for the next time. I agree with you. I don't want to put you in a position where you've already decided what direction you're going. I don't think you mentioned any high priority that any of us disagree with. So I think we can just use this as moving forward for the next round of budgeting. I don't think there's any, even the ones I mentioned, I don't think have to be done this next year.
So do you still want the?
I still think we need the refresher. I still think we need to discuss our medium-term priorities. But if you've already got, you've already done budget planning on priorities that we've already told you was a high priority, I don't think we need to change those. I don't. I'm good with that.
This is the start of the budget building, so.
So we don't do this right now. We do it after you've pretty much got your budget set.
but
Just
then
as
that
a
push, that's all the way out in the spring then, by the time that's done, right?
Right.
Right, but we're going to build the budget off of the strategic.
What I'm saying is you go with what you've got now.
Okay, okay.
You don't change what you were gonna do based on what we said tonight, because I don't think none of my suggestions have to be done in the next fiscal year.
Okay.
I don't know if,
Well, just, Mayor, if I may.
Yes, go ahead.
I mean, just the Stewart Park we're already in progress on that, so.
right,
So
right.
that's okay.
Yeah, so I think you can stay with where you are. I'm just saying, if we should do this again, but not right in the middle of the budgeting process, in my mind, unless Jennifer really wants to do that,
Does it make? So question for the council, do we want to look at it to trim the list down and help staff with a focus?
I think we let them go where
Just
they're
let it go,
going.
okay.
Yeah, 'cause they're gonna go through a round of their meetings and stuff anyway,
Okay.
based on this, right?
Yes.
And we didn't have any major opposition to any.
No, there weren't.
Okay.
So that should focus.
So is it fair to say that the changes that have been discussed are consensus, and we can make those changes and start building the budget, and then at some point, we will come together and do a dot exercise?
Mayor, in my opinion, there's two consensus items. Stewart Park keeps moving forward,
Yes,
and Danny Thomas Ranch drops off the list.
okay, and then I had the one with the communication, putting it up higher, that if we can get an app out and so forth and educate the public.
I don't know that that's a consensus until we start discussing it.
All right, so Mike, so as Mr. White brings up, we have consensus on
Stewart Park, I
Stewart
agree.
Park and Danny Thomas Ranch.
Yes.
So yes here, okay,
Yes.
all right, so we're unanimous on that one.
Right.
So then if I throw in mine with moving up in priority to a level one on the system of proactive communication related to traffic and other topics by creating perhaps an app and so forth. It would involve staff time, but then in terms of input and getting the word out, we do now have a public information officer that I would imagine would be involved in that. And I don't know her workload, obviously, and don't want to micromanage, but we may have some things in place now where we can tackle that, is my thought. Any objection from staff on that? Could that happen if we made that a priority?
It can happen, but I think what council's asking for is consensus on
Yeah, so I'm asking, is it possible? And then we'll ask if they want to do it, as
We
my
can start
approach.
looking at that, yes.
Okay, so council,
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
I'd like to see what we can do.
Well, question on,
yes. All right, so we got consensus over here and a question over here.
yeah, so if we do that, what moves down? Because you can't have everything at the top, right?
Well, each of the individual target areas have differing numbers of high priority. It's entirely up to council whether or not you move that to a level 1, a level 2, or a level 3. And so, if, for example, what I'm proposing is communications and relationships has 1, infrastructure and traffic has 9. So each of the
Right.
key pillars have differing numbers of high level.
Right, but can you take something from one level and move it up without impacting the others?
Yes,
You can't?
yes.
Is this something that you can do without any impact to the others? I guess that's what I'm trying to get clear in my head.
Yes,
don't know.
because we only have one high priority, and that's the pop-ups.
Yeah, it's on, Mr. Laura, it's on page 430. So the level 1 item is in red, and then the proposed one is priority level 2, goal number 4. They're almost related, in my opinion.
So I'm not in consensus with that.
Okay,
And my concerns are that I could easily make an argument that the ones that I wanted to move up don't require a whole lot of staff time because it's consultant work to explore. I mean, they talk about exploring, creating 2 different districts, and it talks about reevaluating the TOT taxes. I just think that if we're going to start having a discussion where we're not in full consensus, that I would want the opportunity to make my case for these items. And I think that deters from the idea that we're trying to let staff continue to move forward with where they are now. We do have a new public information officer, and also over the last year since we started this, the communications to the community have been outstanding. I don't know, when you're talking about communications about traffic, my thought of what you're talking about is something where we're giving real-time communication to travelers, people who are stuck behind a train, things like that. I just think I'm not in consensus with that item.
okay, I appreciate you bringing that up because that was beyond the scope of what I was expecting it to be. Is it more in line with what Mr. White said, that it would be a real-time thing?
That's the way I.
All right, then I misunderstood what that meant. I thought it was just proactive of update on projects where we are and so forth, which I know is ongoing. But if this involves more and it's a real-time traffic flow.
Yeah, and I think the
yeah,
work
down the
that's
road.
been done over the last year with the communications you've done with us, with what we've seen in the flyers that have been put out and the newspaper articles, I think we've got that
So then,
doing really well right now.
so knowing more in depth on what that is, I'm okay with leaving that where it's at. And then I think we're in consensus on the other items, correct?
Stewart Park and DTR.
And we're good, Mr. White? Yes. Okay,
And
all right.
for clarification purposes, I'm separating Stewart Park from Sports Park?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate your comments on that. Okay, so staff's got direction, we're good on that?
Yes.
Okay,
One quick comment?
yes.
And maybe what we do for the refresher is we look at 25, 26 fiscal year? Or we could just make a bunch of changes in May of this year. I'm just kidding. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, and so we don't need a vote on that, we just give direction and that'll come back, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
And then, all right, so I am on to item G3. Our fiscal year 2024, 2025 budget timeline, and our staff report is by Jennifer Eustachian.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So we're talking about the 24-25 budget. Annually, the city has to adopt an operating budget, and we update the 5-year capital improvement plan. It is a citywide process, and it is a big lift. So therefore, a timeline is created, and that's to be used as a tool to keep the city on track and to ensure that we're adopting the budget prior to the start of the new fiscal year. So attached to your staff report is a recommended budget calendar, and I will make a comment on one line in this calendar is set on a holiday, the February 19th. I'm recommending we take that out, and staff will bring that revenue planning and long-term forecasting review to the Finance and Audit Committee in January, at the January meeting. So with that, I'm available for any questions that you have. And you can review and let me know if there's any recommended changes or if receive and file, as I believe the recommended action, receive and file.
Okay, and do we have any public comments?
I have no written requests. Rudy, do we have any callers on the line?
I have no callers on the line.
Okay, thank you. Any public, or council, Mr. White?
What is the holiday in February? What's that?
President's Day.
President's Day. Okay. Okay, thank you.
All right, so then instead of the 19th, you said that meeting will then be finance and audit in January?
We'll include that item in the January regularly
Okay.
scheduled
All right, perfect.
Finance and Audit
Okay.
Committee meeting.
So we need a motion to receive and file then with that change? Oh, I'm sorry, I missed that. Mr. Martinez, thank you.
Oh, yeah, I just quick question. So if we were to do this relook at the strategic plan for the next fiscal, we'd be looking sometime in September then, well out of the budget, well into the new budget, something like that for the next time, where we can really talk about it more. Is that kind of what we're looking at, September, October thing, or?
What I understood from council is we were going to continue with what we have to start building the budget.
Right.
I would like to bring the dot exercise back sooner than September to make sure that we're all moving in the same direction.
But after we were already done with all our budget stuff and after maybe the fiscal year in July? or-
During the budget process, but we're going to build the budget based
Okay,
on.
I just didn't want you to have to do two things at once.
Oh, no,
You're dealing
no.
with budget, you're dealing with DOT.
I
you're
don't
dealing
really
with that.
expect too many significant changes. I'm
Okay.
not hearing that we've completely missed the mark on.
Yeah.
So I don't expect too many changes, and we can always do budget amendments if that's, if there's something that just comes out of, nowhere, then we can do a budget amendment.
Perfect. All right, thank you, Mayor.
And Mayor, may I
Yes.
make a comment? And usually you come to us in April or May and say, we got to really put this on the budget.
Of course, yeah.
So I think doing it in the springtime would probably, work well in case there's something that you want to bring up at that point that we can discuss as a priority.
So sometime,
March, April.
that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
With baseball shirts.
March, or we could do it in March Madness and wear basketball shirts.
All right, Ms. White?
I was just gonna propose, if we think we'll have the same discussion next year, maybe prior to this December meeting in November, we could hold a dot exercise for the following year, in preparation, if we feel like this is something we want to continue on the annual. Otherwise, with that, I will make a motion to receive and file this if we need it.
Okay. Have a second?
I'll second.
Councilmember Martinez?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Voigt?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Flora?
Yes.
Mayor Finn?
Yes.
All right, on to item G4, the Fourth Amendment to the Professional Services Agreement with Moffitt and Nichols for the Pennsylvania Avenue Grade Crossing Project, CIP number 2017-012. Staff report by Mr. Robert Vestal.
Thank you, Mayor. Council?
Mayor, I'd like to jump in if I could, unless there's any public comments or any discussion required from council. I'd like to make a motion to move this one forward, approve a Fourth Amendment to the Professional Services Agreement. So I don't know if you want to check to see if there's public
Yeah, I'll
comment.
check, I'll ask, I'll go for a second, and then we'll ask for any public comments on that.
I have no written requests. Rudy, do
Okay.
we have any callers on the line?
I have no callers on the line.
All right, do we have a second?
Quick comment. I understand much Robert enjoys speaking publicly to the council, so I'm just wondering if maybe, I'm kidding.
Okay,
I'll do a second.
I'll withdraw my motion then.
Yeah, I'll second.
Okay.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. A vote, please.
Councilmember Martinez?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Voigt?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Laura?
Yes.
Mayor Finn?
Yes. All right, thank you. A little sit-down sign. All right.
You know, I don't have to be the only one who recognizes those types of
Oh, we
items,
love
so-
putting you on the
No,
spot.
we love you. Roy. You've made the trend.
All right, thank you. So with that, we'll move on to item H, legislative updates and discussion.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. No official legislative update for you this evening. Should have some additional information for you at the next meeting.
All right, thank you. Any economic updates? Economic development update?
Yes, so we will have our regularly scheduled Economic Development Committee meeting on Wednesday, December 13th. At that meeting, we will be bringing forth a marketing plan discussion, as well as having a presentation from the consultant GHD, who is finishing the draft of the downtown revitalization plan. And what's presented at Economic Development Committee, barring any significant recommended changes from the committee, will be coming to council in January.
All right, thank you. And city treasurer's report. Oh, we don't have anybody here tonight, so I'll just make a comment that we had our Finance and Audit Committee meeting on the 30th, and that we reviewed the draft yearly audit, and it looks really good. So we appreciate the effort that went into that. On to our city clerk report. All right, thank you. City attorney's report.
Nothing this evening.
All right, thank you. City manager.
Just a couple of quick announcements. As the mayor mentioned, the audit was reviewed by the Finance and Audit Committee. It will be brought to council on the 19th, but I do want to acknowledge our finance director. There are no findings in the audit for a
Woohoo.
second year in a row.
Great job.
Traffic relief plan workshop is scheduled for Thursday, this Thursday at 5 p.m., and RCTC will be here. I do, before council leaves tonight, I do have some documents I'd like to give you. And this Saturday is the Blizzard Bash. I hope you've all noticed the new decorations. This is phase one, if you will, for decorating downtown. Next year, we're gonna go even bigger. Palm Avenue has some decorations, and front of City Hall is decorated, and it's going to be quite an event on Saturday, so I hope to see you all out there. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we
Mayor,
have-
may I make a comment
Oh,
on
yes, go right
one of
ahead.
our items?
Yeah.
So the workshop on Thursday, we're going to have both the current general manager and the next, executive director and the next executive director. And they told me yesterday that they'll probably do about a 15, maybe 20-minute presentation, and the rest of the time is for questions. So
They have about 20 slides.
What's that?
They have about 20 slides.
Yeah. So we really need to get our time's worth out of that. So I just wanted to bring that up.
Okay, I appreciate that, thank you. Item N, future agenda items, we've got a list in front of us here. Any changes or any additions to that? Okay, seeing none, on to council reports. Let's hear from our past mayor, Mr. Martinez first.
Thank you, Mayor. That sounds funny. I don't have no report tonight. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Ms. Voigt.
I just wanted to highlight, we did go to the Finance and Audit Committee. Great job to the team, for sure, on that audit. And I'm excited to bring that back to council for everybody to see the hard work that all of the staff have put in, everyone, all departments. And I'm excited for this weekend, and I hope I see some of you ice skating on that ice skating rink. So I'm excited for that.
All right, thank you. Mr. White.
I don't need any more medical experiences. Trust me, Marty would not allow me to ice skate even if I wanted to.
They have like a walker you can use.
Do they?
That's right.
Careful. I just want to let everyone know that there is a Cal Cities meeting on Monday. Just those are always open to everyone on council and staff. It's not just because one person is assigned to Cal Cities. And then I want to thank Councilmember Martinez for doing an outstanding job over the last year.
Oh,
I know sometimes I can be hard to work with, but I'm not gonna let David off the hook. Just so you know.
It's
Keep
coming.
passing it
It's
on.
coming.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. White. Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes, sir, thank you, Mayor. I attended RC on Monday. They elected a new chair, Kevin Bash, Councilmember Bash, and vice chair is Supervisor Spiegel. Also attended WRCOG on Monday as well. I do want to thank staff for the Christmas decorations. I've got a couple phone calls, actually was as they were going up. So, and then I got one for front of City Hall. So, I appreciate that very much. Thanks for that work. Looking forward to Saturday. My goodness, I had another one. Where'd it go? Well, I guess that's it. So thank you for that. Appreciate that, Mayor.
All right,
Oh,
thank.
I'm sorry.
Yes, go ahead.
I got it. I did want to thank Mr. Martinez, or Councilmember Martinez. Thanks for letting me be your stunt double throughout the year. I appreciate that very much. I can't tell you how many times I was mayor, but so I appreciate that.
It was nice having.
You did a great job.
Might be a little tougher this year then.
Yeah, I can't shave the beard.
All right, well, thanks for the reports. I just wanted to add for my report this evening that I attended the Saturday cleanup that we did for the upcoming parade, and want to give a huge shout out to the National Junior Honor Society students from both Summer Wind Trail School and Mountain View Middle School that showed up. It went well. They stuck around afterwards and helped straighten them, do some raking and so forth in front of City Hall. So they've done great with that. So I appreciate that, and extra kudos to them. And a little bit younger group, I think 8th and 9th grade perhaps on those, and had talked about future assignments with the Youth Council. So I was putting a plug in there. Also, too, as a reminder for our council, we'll have some committee assignments that will be made. So we would like to, if you guys can get me a list of the committees that you would like to continue to serve on or would like any new changes to, if you can get that to me by next Tuesday, and then I've got some time, then I can review that with staff and then make those decisions at our next meeting. Would everybody be able to do that?
Mayor, I'll send that email out.
Okay, perfect.
This
All right.
week.
And then, so it'll go, and then it'll get consolidated by our clerk, so I appreciate that. Okay, and then a reminder to the public, we have openings on some of our commissions and committees that the public can serve on, and those advertisements are currently out, and deadlines for those is the 12th? 11th? Monday, the 11th, right? Or is that, I don't even have a calendar in front of me, I'm guessing now. Is that correct? Okay, so Monday, 11th, 5 p.m. Get your applications in if you want to serve with the city. We'd love to have the support of our constituents helping out. And with a new one in that assignment is the Parks and Rec Committee. So we're looking for some help with that. So with that, yes,
When will we be appointing those?
The 19th.
that'll be on the 19th.
Okay, thank you.
So we'll have a lot of committees changes and so forth and assignments and clarifications on that night. And so with that, we will adjourn tonight's meeting at 7:18. Thank you.